Broadcasting from the campus of Salisbury University, this is WSDL Ocean City, NPR News Talk 90.7, putting Delmarva first. It's time for Delmarva Today with your host, Don Rush.
Could ice hockey come to Worcester County? A new study is underway to find out. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. For the last few years, discussions have gone on about the possibility of an arena for ice hockey, led by the company Hat Trick Consultants out of Texas. This year, the Worcester County Commissioners voted 5-1 to accept a grant from the Maryland Economic Development Assistance Authority and Fund to help pay for the first phase of the study. The arena would consist of 6,200 arena seats with 500-seat practice facility and an outdoor sports complex. The question is, does an ice hockey arena complete with a team make sense on the eastern lower shore? To take a look at the issue, we have Mitch Northam. He is a sports writer for the Salisbury Daily Times, and also Greg Mace. He's a sports director for a long time at ABC 27 there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And they, of course, have a minor hockey league called the Hershey Bears, and we want to bring him as well. But, Mitch, I want to first start with you. Sure. So what is the situation with the possibility this is going to happen? I mean, we've got really sort of a couple of years of maneuvering, some discussions back and forth. Where are we at this point?
Sure. I mean, right now, like I said, we're kind of at a point where, they've approved a study, and they're going to go ahead with that. And last time I talked to Mary Mears, the Worcester County Director of Economic Development, she expected that study to start at the end of this month. So I can only assume that, right now that study is underway. And basically that study is supposed to measure the economic viability and, the usefulness of that arena, a 500-seat practice facility, and an outdoor sports complex, which is, all what they're planning to build on about 10 to 12 acres of land.
Now, this is obviously not the first time, actually, that they've been looking at this. I mean, a few years back, about a decade ago, there were some other looks at what happened to those.
Sure. I mean, from what I understand, all the there's been some interest in this area from minor league hockey teams, minor league basketball teams, a bunch of different leagues around the country interested in coming to the Eastern Shore. In the past, though, they've mostly been looking at the Wycomico Youth and Civic Center, but, of course, the hang-up there is they can't serve alcohol. And minor league sports doesn't really work without the sale of alcohol. So, a lot of people have looked and they say, okay, thanks, we'll pass on that. But now, people are taking a hard look at Worcester County. The company that has kind of spurred on this study and this talk is Hat Trick Consultants out of Texas. Basically, this all started in the summer of 2014. They came here and kind of did their own study and projected a annual revenue of about $7.5 million to Worcester County a year and a $19 million economic impact. So that's kind of where everything started there, summer of 2014. And since then, it's just kind of been a slow process. This type of thing takes some time, and there's a lot of different hoops to jump through.
Oh, by the way, what do we know about the Hat Trick Consultants in terms of them getting teams together?
Well, they have done a couple other kind of arena projects, and basically, I believe they've been able to bring some minor league hockey teams to some different arenas around the country as well. I think, for example, the in the article that we ran online on Delmarva Now, they sent us basically a rendering of an arena that they put together in Allen, Texas, where they field a minor league hockey team there.
So there's obviously some question about whether or not there's any demand. I mean, I know Senator Jim Mathias, the local senator here, state senator, said he just wants to make sure that we have the attraction and the underlying demand for this arena in the area. Mm-hmm. How much of the study is going to be devoted to that in particular, and what does that prospect look like? Because I know that in some of the stuff that you've been writing, you're a bit skeptical about whether or not we actually maintain this kind of arena.
Sure, yeah. The study is definitely going to figure out, what kind of demand, I guess, there is around here for that type of arena. What tenants, can live in that arena and support it. Is it going to be a hockey team? Is it going to be a basketball team? Is it going to be, whatever? So the study is definitely going to figure that out. And it's also, I think another one of Senator Mathias's concerns is, what kind of impact is this going to have on the Civic Center in Wycomico County and the Convention Center in Ocean City? They just, I think, renovated the Ocean City Convention Center recently, and Mary Mears, she said that one of the things that this study is going to find out is what kind of impact that's going to have on that, and they want this arena to be complementary to those other locations. I think in as far as demand and stuff, I definitely think that the Eastern Shore can get some use out of a state of the art arena. The one that's newly built there in Worcester County. I think there's a lot of different things that could go in there. I think the question I would have is what type of tenants would this area kind of support and throw their money at, I guess you want to say. Is it going to be a hockey team? Is it going to be a basketball team? I think you just have to find the right primary and the right secondary tenant. And then the other things, the concerts and different high school events, I think those things will kind of work itself in. I think you'll find a lot of people around here that'll want to get into that arena and use it for different purposes.
By the way, is there any sense about how many events would be held at, say, an arena like this, and particularly in ratio of how many hockey events as opposed to, say, other kinds of events? What are they looking at?
I think, I believe in one of the stories I wrote, I can't remember exactly, but I want to say Hat Trick said that basically they projected that there would be about 125 events per year here, and that included all the hockey games and all of the games of, maybe a secondary tenant. I think for a minor league hockey team, I think you're probably looking at about 40 home games or something like that. So, and then you would have a secondary tenant that would kind of fill some things in, and then you would have concerts and conventions and, other things like that that would kind of help supplement that.
Great. I want to turn to you because you've got the Hershey Bears, who apparently have been around for a long time, a minor league hockey team. Give me, first of all, a little history of the Hershey Bears, because obviously they reach back a bit as opposed to the kind of thing we're trying to just sort of start up almost without notice here.
Well, they've been around for a long time, almost 80 years. This hockey team is the American Hockey League, which is one step below the National Hockey League. So in Hershey, we get all the Washington Capitals prospects. We here in Hershey are a Washington Capitals farm team. Each of the American Hockey League teams is affiliated with a National Hockey League team. So it is their developmental squad, much like the Shorebirds are a developmental team, although at a lower level for the Orioles. So in Hershey, it started out many, many years ago in a place called the Ice Palace. They moved into an arena that is still up and running, the Hershey Park Arena, an older arena, which actually they did not serve alcohol in there. And they did very, very well. They won many, many championships. They filled the place. But the arena, which seated about 7,000 people, 7,000 plus, became outdated. A decade ago, they built a state-of-the-art $90 million arena here with 40 suites. It can seat as much as 11,000. They average in Hershey over 9,000 people a game. The arena is gorgeous. They just put in a $3 million HD scoreboard. So it's become the thing to do here. They sell out, and they don't really do a whole lot of big promotional giveaways. This place is kind of unique. People are simply very much into the game, as opposed to a minor league baseball game. People are very much concerned about the results. They want the Bears to win. There's a real passion about them winning and losing. And it's a great part of what we do here during the winter.
Why is it that you have that kind of passion that you seem to have? Do a lot of high schoolers play ice hockey? I mean, is there some indigenous or something that's natural about where you are, or was this just something, a sport that kind of like came into its own over a long period of time and it finally got an audience? What's the relationship between the hockey team and the game itself and the community?
Well, it's very strong. Many of the players are here for more than 1 year. It was when this team came into existence long before any of us were here. It was founded by Milton Hershey, who of course founded everything in this town, including the chocolate and the community of the company that owns the Hershey Bears is Hershey Entertainment and Resort. They own the Hotel Hershey. They own Hershey Park. They own Chocolate World, which is the place where you go to see how the chocolate's made. So something happened when Milton Hershey started to develop the team. He made it so much of a part of the community that people just wanted to go. There's a strong relationship between the players and the fans. People identify with these guys. Hockey players are terrific in terms of getting out in the community, staying and signing autographs. I've never had a problem with a hockey player ever in terms of an interview or just being a pain in the neck like you see a lot of professional athletes be to the fans and the media. So over time, it simply became the thing to do. And then when they built this new arena here, it became even more the thing to do. People just simply go. Their season ticket base is very strong. I believe it's almost 4,000. People will go because it's great entertainment on a Saturday night. And there's not a lot of competition here for things to do on a Saturday night. Now, this is a big metropolitan area. It's a top 50 television market.
Right.
We are very close to Philadelphia, even New York, to Baltimore. But we don't have another team that's competing against. There's some smaller, we have an indoor soccer team, we have an indoor football team. That's really about it. It's just sort of been ingrained in the community.
So in terms of, by the way, of competing with like other kinds of venues or other kinds of activities, I mean, a Harrisburg in relationship to, are there a lot of things to do in terms of Harrisburg, or do you think that Delmarva, because you certainly are familiar with the area, is Delmarva different in that sense?
Correct. And I was looking, we look at the television market size, and clearly Salisbury is in the low 100s. We're like market 40. We're a combined market. We're Harrisburg, Lancaster, Lebanon, and York. So the Bears draw from a huge wide area. We have people from Maryland who come up. I would think the biggest question in Delmarva would be, look, it's one thing for a baseball team in the summer to do well because your population base expands so much because of Ocean City and Rehoboth and Fenwick and Bethany. People will go to the shorebirds because it's something to do other than going to the boardwalk if you're down there for a vacation. I would think my concern is with putting a hockey team in there is how strong of a population base are you going to be able to draw from to be able to support a team?
What about that, Mitch? What about this idea that perhaps obviously there's a lot of people who come in from outside, but this is basically sort of a winter sport in terms of its season. Is that one of the major stumbling blocks then? Sure.
I mean, no one has, expressed that to me, but, I think if you're from here and you hear the idea of a hockey arena coming here and it going in Worcester County, Worcester County, you're thinking about Ocean City. This study is going to look at the county as a whole. But yeah, Ocean City, you go there in, January, December, it's a ghost town. I mean, at all those beach towns, there's nobody there, except for, a couple locals and stuff like that. But, really, those places are booming in the summertime. And I think that has to be, somewhat of a concern. You're putting a winter sport there. And, are there going to be enough people there to fill all those seats in that arena? So, yeah, I definitely think that has to be a concern when you're looking at this thing.
So, Greg, in terms of the Hershey Bears, is it something that do you think that if a homegrown sort of family business or whatever, as indeed Hershey was, really said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I mean, the Purdue's obviously are the ones that come to my mind right off the top. I mean, they're probably the closest we have. Does it take, you think, some kind of like major initiative by whether it's a family or an entrepreneur to say, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to invest all this money into it, and over time we might be able to develop this?
Well, it does take time. There's a couple other things you have to look at, which is what league you would play in. There's a couple of leagues that would be possible for that area. One is the ECHL, which is one step below the American Hockey League, and they have the closest to Salisbury would be probably Norfolk, Virginia. They were in the American Hockey League, just moved into the ECHL because the AHL was doing some shifting. There's another team in Reading. There's another league called the Southern Professional Hockey League, which has teams to your south. The closest one is Fayetteville, North Carolina. So that's a big part of what you have to do. You have to get a franchise. Either you have to buy a franchise from somebody who's not doing well and hope that the league will say, sure, we'll give this a shot in Salisbury. And then it does take time. One of the biggest things with minor league sports is group sales. You can put a team in an area like this, but unless you get groups to come out, you're just not going to survive. That's the key to making a minor league franchise work. People will buy season tickets. They'll walk up. People. I'm a hockey nut. Our family's a hockey nut. I drive to Ocean City and stay to watch hockey, but there's not a lot of Greg Maces like that. So you've got to really pound on the group sales. Really have a strong marketing effort to people to come out. So could you do it there? I'm not sure. I think that's why, is you've been talking about, a market study is so important. I'm not even sure then if you'd be able to determine how many people would actually come out to the games. But, yeah, you have to have a strong staff, a strong marketing staff, and people who will do group sales. Because if you can do good group sales, you're in.
So, Mitch, as a matter of fact, what do you think has attributed the success of the Shorebirds? I mean, I know we had, as a matter of fact, I did a piece some while back where there are a whole slew at one point of small minor league or small baseball teams all across the peninsula. Why do you think that the Shorebirds in particular were so successful? I mean, obviously they had the backing of the Purdue family, but nonetheless, that it did thrive.
Yeah, I think one of the things is definitely, you look at the backing of the Purdue family. People around here seem to love baseball, and Frank Purdue's kind of idea was, hey, let me put a minor league baseball team here so people don't have to drive 2 hours to Baltimore to go see a game, and that seemed to basically kind of was their bread and butter to begin with. I think if you look at since then, if you look at the Shorebirds under the management of Chris Bitters, the current GM there, they do a lot of things in the community. The Shorebirds they've made their presence known. They're around. Everybody knows where they are, who they are, and they've really just done a lot to kind of make themselves known to the entire community and do a lot for the people of Delmarva.
And do you think that some of it is also just simply that it is played during the summer, that there's a little more? I mean, how many people? I mean, I don't know if anybody knows. Does anybody know how many people who attend the games who actually come from outside the area as opposed to people who regularly show up? Or
I don't know
does that
that
make sense
exactly, but I think the one thing for Delmarva and for the Shorebirds is, if you look at kind of where the Shorebirds are located, they're located in Salisbury. People like that call the crossroads of Delmarva. They draw from people, as far up as about Dover, Delaware, and as far south as the Eastern Shore of Virginia, and as far west as, kind of that midshore area in Kent Island. So they're drawing from all over there during the summer, and where during the summer the Eastern Shore is a tourism destination. So, you have to look at that, and people on their way to Ocean City, they drive right by that stadium. So I think, location and definitely being a summer team to attract all those tourists is definitely probably paying off.
Greg, I want to turn to you before we have to let you go. So what do you're a big hockey fan. And in fact, I lived in Los Angeles where I saw the Kings, and I even went to a game that was done by obviously a minor league folks called the Long Beach Sharks. So what can I say?
Sure.
But actually being close, minor league, there's a lot to be said, I think, for minor league teams, because you do actually, I think, get a lot closer and see the action. But what do you think is attractive about ice hockey, and is it something, and how's it doing in terms of national interest? I mean, obviously football is sort of the national sport, as it were, but what do you find exciting about it?
Well, I grew up watching ice hockey, and I grew up in Baltimore, so I grew up with a team called the Baltimore Clippers and went to countless games there. So it was something fun that we in high school did. We used to skate after the games. They'd let you skate out on the ice. It's fast. It's entertaining. There's never a dull moment. There's a certain quality about the players that I think people like, because they, like I said before, I've just never found a hockey player who's been difficult to deal with. they're just very personable. They like the fans. And there's nothing more dramatic than a hockey playoff. The intensity is great. I don't know. It's just something that I've done my entire life. Funny, my wife is a huge hockey fan as well. And being able to be as fortunate as I am to have worked in one place and covered one team, I'm very close and gotten to know a lot of these guys. So from a reporter standpoint, it's a great sport to cover. There's nothing. I'd love to see a team down there. I want to go back to the Shorebirds because I remember going to the first year of the Shorebirds and how exciting that was and how neat it was. They were like, wow, there's something to do other than go to the boardwalk here in the summer. So, you have to have a different mentality because you're not dealing, like I said, with that summertime crowd. If you find the right fit and you find the right management group, it is possible to make that work. But there's a lot of ifs there, and I think it would be terrific for the area, but all the pieces have to fall into place.
Just quickly, by the way, before I let you go, why do you think there perhaps has not been a hockey team in Maryland for all these years, these decades? I mean, you mentioned the fact that you saw some in Baltimore. I mean, and Baltimore might seem like a perfect venue for a minor team. Why do you think it hasn't shown up here in Maryland?
Well, it had shown up for many years. There was
right.
the Baltimore Clippers, the Baltimore Bandits, and then the Baltimore Skipjacks. They play in what I will always call the Baltimore Civic Center, which is downtown Baltimore. It is not. It is blocks away from Camden Yards and the Ravens Stadium. So there were a number of circumstances that made hockey go away from Baltimore. They weren't drawing. That's not a great building for hockey anymore. There's some thought, and there are people who want to get a team, an American Hockey League team, back in Baltimore, but it might take a new arena. But other than Baltimore, there's no other city that would really be big enough to support a hockey team. I think in the Frederick Hagerstown area, you're too close to Hershey and you're too close to the Washington Capitals to make it work. What I think makes it intriguing about a city like Salisbury is the fact that, A, there isn't a whole lot to do in terms of sports, and there isn't during the winter months. I think Maryland's just been the victim of bad circumstances. Plus, when the Washington Capitals came in, they now have territorial rights. So you can't put a hockey team close to them without getting permission.
Okay, Greg, I'm going to let you go because I know you got to run off to Florida, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks. Well, I wish this project well because I love that area. Kind of grew up in the summers in that area. My great-grandfather built some of the first houses in Dewey Beach, so I have a lot of connections down there and love coming down for sporting events. I think it would be a great draw, and I wish this project a lot of luck.
Well, thanks a lot, Greg.
Thanks for having me.
Mitch, in terms of the political reaction to this, obviously there's some hesitation because we don't know what the demand is. What has been the reaction of like the local commissioners, the politicians? I know we've talked a little bit about Senator Jim Mathias. What's been that? What sense do you get about where they are at this point? Because they did authorize this, at least to look at this thing.
Yeah, I mean, and the Worcester County Commissioners, for the most part, it seems like everybody is at least on board with taking a look at this thing, with at least the study and figuring out, would this be good? Everybody is at least on board with that. The commissioners' vote was 5-1, with one person absent. So, I think that maybe not everyone is for hockey, or maybe not everyone is not, right away for putting an arena here, but I think everyone is definitely on board with at least taking a look at this thing.
Do you think there might be some help then from Annapolis if they say, looks like we might be able to make this thing happen?
Yeah, I mean they got that grant for $25,000. And Worcester County really isn't paying a whole lot for this study. Worcester County is paying about $15,000 of it. You're getting $30,000 from MSA, and then $5,000 from Hattrick. And basically, the study was split up into two phases. So the first phase they're looking at now, which is basically trying to figure out if it's economically viable and useful to put an arena here. If that first phase, if they find any area of Worcester County where that would be viable, then that would trigger the second phase. And that second phase, Worcester County isn't going to pay at all for that either. So really, I mean, it's kind of a low risk to kind of say, hey, let's give this thing a fair shot and just take a look at it.
By the way, any sense, how much it would cost if they decided to go ahead? How much would this arena cost? And do we have any estimates at this point?
That I'm not really sure about. And I don't know if, I assume that if they do kind of go ahead, I assume Worcester County would maybe have to pony up a little bit of money to build that arena, but it kind of sounds like maybe Hat Trick Consultants, that company out of Texas, would kind of head that up. So I'm not really 100% sure. I think that might be kind of a cross that bridge when we come to a type of thing with the money.
By the way, we were talking a little bit about Ocean City and the convention center there. We know what the downside is for the Civic Center here in Salisbury. Any thoughts about that being a potential venue? I mean, do they sell alcohol there? What's the situation there?
That I'm not sure about it. And to my knowledge, they haven't really had a whole lot of, it might just be something where people don't think the Ocean City Convention Center is a good venue for sports. Because to my knowledge, they really haven't had a ton there. You look at, kind of the high school stuff, like the Bayside Championship game for basketball. That's typically always at the Wycomico Youth and Civic Center, and nobody's really kind of explored the idea of, maybe putting it at the Ocean City Convention Center there. And it seems like in the past when, these couple of different basketball leagues and a couple of different hockey leagues have come to this area, they've always looked at the Wycomico Civic Center and not really the one in Ocean City. And it might be because, Greg was talking about earlier, how, in the winter times, this place, Ocean City, there's not much there.
By the way, I have to ask this because our producer, Chris Frank, wanted me to ask you, any possibility of curling coming to...
I'm not sure. Maybe we can get some Olympic trialists in there or something.
There you go. We've been speaking with Mitch Northam. He's a sports writer for the Salisbury Daily Times. Also, previously, we had Greg Mace. He's the sports director for the ABC 27 in Harrisburg. And, of course, Harrisburg has the Hershey Bears, a long-time minor league ice hockey team. And we certainly appreciate him joining us. And thanks a lot for stopping by.
Thank you.
This has been Delmarva Today. I'm Don Rush. Thanks for listening.
This has been Delmarva Today, a production of Delmarva Public Radio. Chris Rank produces and is our audio engineer. Don Rush is your host. For podcasts, visit our website, delmarvapublicradio.net, or subscribe to the Delmarva Today podcast on iTunes. Delmarva Today can now be seen on PAC 14. To view the schedule, view the daily times, or visit pac14.org.